What's happening, everybody? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? You are now here live in the Phish Bowl with Kattphish. I am your host, Kattphish, and you are now watching us live across the internet right here on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. I want to thank everyone that has been watching us each and every week. Those of you that are watching on Facebook and on Instagram, as well as those of you that have been watching on YouTube. I want to thank you for that. This week, we have a different type of show, right? This week, we're going to tackle something that is a bit more real, a bit more important, and not as lighthearted as some of my other episodes, right? Coming to the stage, I have someone that suggested that we tackle some of these issues, right? This is someone who I've known the majority of her life, but it wasn't until we became adults that she got to know who the hell I was, right? This is Lee. Lee is uh, a distant relative, and people like to use the word distant relative, but you know, when you kin to folks, you kin to folks. It don't matter how you're related, you're related. You know what I'm saying? So first of all, Lee, I want to welcome you to to the show, and we just gonna if there's anything that you want to talk to the people about or tell them about who you are first and foremost, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to do that now, right?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Tell them who you are and all that good stuff.
So, like you said, my name is Lee. We are cousins. I don't think we're that far distant. It's what, second cousins?
Yeah, something like that.
Our mothers were first cousins. Um, and I'm all the way up here in Minnesota, frozen in my house. So send some warm vibes. Um, yeah, I work in behavioral health, not as a clinician, but more on a policy side. But I suggested this topic today because I think it's something that needs to be addressed, especially in the Black community. So,
And you want to tell the people what the topic we're going to talk about is before I dive into it.
um, mental health in the
Okay.
Black community.
Mental health in the black community, and let me just go ahead and get this out now. Two things. Number one, uh, Lee sent me a text message. She sent me a meme or whatever it was. And one of the things that was uh, just important for me was to make sure that I shared what that meme said. And the meme said, "Dear black people, black may not crack, but our minds do. And it's okay to see a therapist." The issue at hand, that was the end of the meme or whatever, right? And I felt that, and I thought that was something that was so profound, because while our black doesn't crack, because you know Lee is, and myself, you know what I'm saying, I don't feel like I look as old as I am, right? But you know, for those of you that don't know, I'm 46, but my brain is 112, right? My brain is 112 because I have so much going on,
Hmm.
and uh, and when you sent me that, that was something that it really resonated with me, and it stuck with me and it stayed with me, and I appreciate you for sending that to me. The second thing I want to say, uh, to everyone that is listening, by no means am I making any professions or proclamations to say that I am a mental health professional. So, you know, with that being said, I am not a mental health professional. I am having sex with one on a regular basis. I am on a regular basis. But that does not give me the wherewithal to be like, okay, let me share and let you think that what I'm saying is from a professional standpoint,
Mhm.
because it is not, right? But I am having sex with one on a regular
You
basis.
are a
It
fool.
is
Okay.
it is pretty
Okay.
good. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Now, in preparation for this episode, what I did do, and what I like to do, is I like to do research, right? When you're talking about something as important as mental health, uh, you don't want to go into a situation and just stupidly open your mouth and say things, right? Because you have to have some facts to back up a lot of the stuff that you're saying. But in the black community, what happens a lot is we are faced with so much stuff that we have to deal with, and it doesn't start once you hit your 40s. A lot of people think that uh, uh, mental health is something that hits when you automatically, when you deal with the loss of a loved one, or when you deal with stress on your job, or anything like that. Most of this stuff happens in our childhood, right? Most of this stuff happens in our childhood. One of the things that is crazy about that, though, is we don't realize how much the childhood trauma that we deal with, we don't realize how much that impacts us when we become grown ass people. We don't realize it. And so upon doing my research, I found uh, some studies that shows 7 ways that childhood trauma can affect adults, right? Um, and one of the things that it mentions is, well, I'm going to read it verbatim. Surviving childhood trauma leaves emotional and mental scars that are often translate to battles with chronic depression as an adult, anxiety disorders, as well as post traumatic stress disorder. Without confronting the trauma through therapy, the symptoms of these disorders have the ability to wreak havoc on a person's personal and professional life, as well as their physical health. Right? Now, as I'm looking through a lot of these things, uh, I often look at things and I say to myself, um, how has that been a part of my upbringing? How has that been a part of my life? And even though, Lee, your
Mhm.
mom and my mom, first cousins, you know, they had an opportunity to grow up as children uh, in Mississippi, but at some point your mother was smart or my mama was dumb, however you want to describe it. But your mama got away from Mississippi,
Mhm.
and then you were born in Minnesota.
Mhm.
Our upbringings, initially, I thought that our upbringings were different, but they were only different geographically.
Mhm.
The more I started doing the research, and you shared a website with me that I dove into, and the website that you sent me to, which I'll talk about later, that showed me that even though geographically you and I are in different parts of the United States of America, because of the upbringing that your mom and my mom have, they inadvertently kind of poured what they had into us.
Mhm.
And unbeknownst to them, which is fair, because they had shit poured onto them and they did not have the knowledge that exists today.
Mhm.
Your grandmother and my grandmother don't have the knowledge that exists today to prevent that stuff from being passed down from generation to generation. And again, we'll get into generational trauma in a minute. But
Mhm.
upon hearing the mental health issues from childhood trauma, the 2 paragraphs that I've read, uh, going from childhood trauma to bringing that into adulthood, do you think that that is a fair synopsis of one? of the ways that childhood trauma has impacted your life.
Oh, definitely. Um, Me, it was a little bit different. So growing up, I mean, I don't, how do I say this? I dealt with mental health issues from a very young age.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if it was looked at that way. I just remember there was one time I found, again, being nosy, found some paperwork that my mom had filled out, and it was for custody, and she was describing me and my sisters. And one thing that I noticed about myself that she wrote in there was that I worry a lot. I'm always worried about other people. Um, and I do remember vaguely, I wish you were still here so I could ask more questions, but going to therapy as a child. Because of, I know one of the issues I had growing up, before my mom met my stepdad was I didn't know who my dad was. So I was always sad. And so I was in therapy for that. I don't remember the outcome from that, but from a young age, I've dealt with it. And I think because it went unmanaged for so long, it definitely had an impact on me as an adult. Um, and I've noticed that, and I was doing my own research, um, some of these symptoms of behavioral health issues appear differently in children and differently in boys and girls. So
Right.
even with the knowledge, that my mother had, to send me to therapy, um, I went undiagnosed, for years. So I will say that I have been diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, um, depression, and PTSD. Um, and a lot of those issues as a child um, had a major impact on me as an adult. I wish there were I guess I just wish the situation was different where it was more, I guess, readily recognized, especially with young girls, um, and dealt with. And I guess it would have been easier to manage just other, relationships and things as an adult. But I can say it definitely had an impact.
Right. And so, when you look back at, you know, you may not even have a clear memory of having to go through therapy at
Hmm.
such an early age. You may not have a memory of that. But one of the things that I do notice, when I look back at my own self,
Hmm.
is a lot of the times when we as children, when we experience something that could be traumatic,
Hmm.
um, in the black community, a lot of the times it's almost the situation where if a boy, and I'm just using this as an example, if a boy is outside playing and he falls and scraps up his knee or something, you know, most of us that grew up in my era, we would just tell those boys, "Oh, just put some dirt on it and you'll be all right."
Hmm.
Brush it off, right? Um, and as we get older, that same boy who wants to be a football player, he's told that he has to go to the gym and work out certain parts of his body so that he can be strong enough to throw the ball, to catch the ball, to make those tackles. We are teaching these boys to exercise, these teenagers to exercise all these different muscles,
Hmm.
but the muscle that is mostly needed and mostly required, the brain, that muscle doesn't get told to exercise. We're not taught how to do that. We have to figure stuff out on our own because we instantly fall back to, oh, just put some dirt on it and it'll be all right.
Hmm.
Oh, just wait a while and everything will smooth out. You know what I mean? And so when I look back at my own self, I look at, a lot of those instances where I was experiencing things that I could not clearly define. If somebody hit me with a rock, I can clearly define that hurt. My sister picked up a rock, threw it at me, it hit me, it caused me pain. But I can't, as a child, describe what PTSD is. I can't describe what depression is. I can't describe what anxiety is. And because I can't describe it to my teachers or to my mom or to my dad, they don't have the knowledge to be able to understand what I'm trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
and they just brush it off, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I want
and
to point to that. I know one, like as a child, one of the symptoms I had that I realized later in life what it was. I used to complain of stomach pain a lot. And I
mm-hmm,
went to the doctor, I don't know how many times, and there was nothing physically wrong with me.
right,
That was a symptom of anxiety.
mm,
As an adult, I mean, as a child, I couldn't express that.
right,
Um, as an adult, okay, now I can pinpoint, hey, this is making me anxious. This might be an issue or trigger. But as a child, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and
right,
so that manifested itself physically. And it wasn't looked at as anything other than just regular stomach pain. Like there's nothing wrong. No, there was an issue, but like you said, they didn't have the knowledge to understand or to look more into this might be something else.
right, right.
So.
And that's that's a whole different thing, right? But we'll
Hmm.
come back to that. I want to go through the rest of this list: 7 ways survivors of childhood trauma are impacted as adults, right? Um, Number two is self-explanatory. We don't have to go into it too deep. Substance use disorders. So it says essentially that there's a strong link between childhood traumatization and the substance use disorders or addiction, right?
Hmm.
So I don't have those issues.
Hmm.
I'm not a person that deals with substance abuse, anything like that, and for the best of my knowledge, you don't either. So
Well,
you know, right?
it's funny you mentioned that. Like I said, I have some dark stories. Um, Regularly, on a regular day-to-day basis, do I have any issues with substance use? Not at all.
Right.
Have I abused substances in the past? Most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, there was a situation I was in with someone that I was actually engaged to, and I was beyond depressed. It was a horrible situation. Um, wherein it got to the point where I had lost my job, so I was at home now all the time. He was off to work. And during the day, I would take 2, 3, 4 Tylenol PM and finish it with whatever alcohol was available and sleep all day. I would wake
Mm.
up, walk the dogs, and do it again on repeat. This happened for I don't know how many weeks. It was a few weeks. Um, so in those instances, yeah, there was definitely an abuse of the alcohol. Just drink enough and take enough, to sleep, so you don't have to deal with whatever the issues are.
You know what? And when you say it that way,
Hmm.
it makes me want to retract what I said, right? Because a lot of the times, uh, when you think about substance abuse,
Hmm.
um, you don't think about certain things. When I hear the term substance abuse, I think about real hard, super duper hard, real deal drugs,
Hmm.
right? I'm thinking like, cocaine and crack, and crystal meth, and that type of shit, right? Um, but when you anything that you can have to kind of take the edge off,
Hmm.
and you do it excessively, that is essentially what that is. And now that you make me say it to myself, right?
Hmm.
Um, Not so much with nicotine, but with back in the day when I used to smoke marijuana heavily, right? Initially, I was doing it simply because it was cool. It was something
Hmm.
to do, right? But at one point in time, and now I don't know how I forget this, right? But at one point in time, my mental was so far gone. Like I don't remember uh what was like there was just a culmination of things that were happening. But I was smoking weed like very, very just high amounts of weed,
Mm-hmm.
and there was so much going on with me in college. You know, I'm working and I got so much going on, and I just blacked out. And I ended up walking like 7 miles, and my aunt saw me walking on the highway, and she made me get in the car. I didn't realize that I had walked almost to a whole nother county.
Mm-hmm.
And she called my mom, and my mom made me come and withdraw from the university so that I could get my mind right, because
Mm-hmm.
she realized I was going through a whole lot of stuff. And I remember now, as you were making me talk about it, I remember having conversations with her and telling her that, this shit is too much. I'm doing too much. I got too much on my plate. You know what I'm saying? I got all this shit going on, and yeah, it'll work out.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find a way to make it work out, because you always do, right? And another part of that, even with my father, because he was, somebody who firmly believed that, men make it happen, men do what they have to do, and da 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 da, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's like when you sit down and really think about it, it's like the whole thought process of women versus men in terms of mental health in the black community. Like, if anyone is going to get the help, then it should be the women versus the men, because the men is supposed to be tough and hard and shit all the time, right? That's the role that the black man wants, the black people want the black man to have in in our community, right? We can't have a sign of weakness. We can't have any of those things. Uh, and even with black women, now the sad part with black women is that black women are allowed those moments of weaknesses, but even those moments of weaknesses have an expiration date. Because okay, you cried yesterday about that. You got to be a mama today. You cried yesterday about that. You got to be a wife today.
Mm-hmm.
You cried last week about that. You got to go to work today. And that is not fair, because we can't put a timetable on pain. We can't put a timetable on anxiety. We can't put a
Mm-hmm.
timetable on PTSD. But we in the black community, we have a tendency to do that quite often. And, that's that, right?
Agreed. I think that that statement that you made regarding who should, seek therapy, it should be a woman over a man. I think that reinforces that idea that, as a boy or, growing up and as a man, you don't cry over certain things, right? You got to be
Mm-hmm.
tough all the time or whatever. You shouldn't. It creates emotionally immature men.
Yeah,
And I think everyone needs that mental health. And like I said before, sometimes if it goes unchecked, it may manifest itself in other ways. Some
absolutely.
people just may snap, right? They just may be at their breaking point. They might hurt somebody, they might hurt themselves, right? We don't know what could happen. So I think, yes, I understand, the need for men to be, strong and take care of everything. Part of taking care of everything is taking care of yourself. If you don't
Right.
take care of yourself, how can you effectively take care of other people? You can't.
Right.
And so if
And
you're not well, you're not giving your all into these other situations, into your family, into your work. So I think equally we need mental health. I think more so than just, healing our minds, it gives us perspective, different perspective on life and how to handle certain situations and how to respond to certain things. And I think that's definitely necessary, for both men and women, especially. And like, I know from my experience as growing up as a Black woman, single mother, I always had to be, like you said, that strong person, right? I don't want to say I played that male role, but I had to do those things. I had to be strong. I had to take care of everything. I couldn't show weakness even as a woman,
Right.
because I'm supposed to be strong. And doing all of that, being that person, was, I mean, I was prideful about it, right? And it was a trauma response. I was responding
Right.
to trauma that I was dealing with. And that's not a good thing either. It's, yeah, I'll just say that. I think we both equally need to seek mental health services.
Right. And it's ironic. A lot of the times, anyone who's ever flown on an airplane, they'll tell you all the time, if you're flying with children and we experience some loss in air in the cabin,
Mm-hmm.
the masks are going to fall out from the ceiling. And then they tell you to put your mask on before you try to help anyone that's sitting next to you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the issue with us as Black people when it comes to our mental health is, especially those of us that love anybody that's near them.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to do all that we can to make sure that we help our children, that we
Yeah.
help our spouses, that we help our parents, that we're going to do those things to help those people. But we got to be able to help ourselves first. We got the help falls from the ceiling. We got to put our own mask on first before we can help others. When you were saying that, that made me think about that because as men, uh, we are taught from not just a generational standpoint, not just from an African American standpoint, but also from a biblical standpoint that we are supposed to be able to be the heads of the household, and the head of the household has to be able to just take care of everything and everyone that is in the confines of that home.
Mm-hmm.
That's the children, and that's the spouse. And but we also have to remember that we are part of that household too.
Mm-hmm.
When you make me say it out loud, it it clicks, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so now it's like, okay, now I got to do some shit for me, right?
Right.
And part of that, like you said, is therapy. Again, we're looking at, for those of you that are just joining, we're looking at mental health in the African American community. And right now we're discussing 7 ways that childhood trauma impacts people as they become adults. And we are on number 3 now, according to the list. We got a lot of shit that we're going to talk about. But number 3, and again, I want to just go ahead and say it for the record again. I am not a mental health professional. I am having sex with one and been having sex with one for a long time, but I am not a professional. It's almost like if you were having sex with a football player. You never been on the field, Lee. You never played football, but if you hang around him long enough, you
Mm-hmm.
start to learn shit about the game.
Right.
You
I mean,
start to
but you
be
can
able
give
to
advice about, I would
understand the
say, like a
lingo.
doctor, I could be sleeping with a doctor, but I ain't one. I know some stuff,
Yeah, I know
but I
some
don't
shit.
have the credentials.
There you go. You know what I'm talking about. Number
Right.
3, number 3 is one of the things that also happens is, and you kind of alluded to it earlier in the conversation, is the dual diagnosis disorder. A lot of times, a dual diagnosis or co-occurring disorder is the presence of a substance use disorder combined with mental health issues such as PTSD, depression, or
Mm-hmm.
anxiety. So, what happens is that each disorder can have a negative impact or even amplify the symptoms of the other. And unless both disorders are treated simultaneously, it's difficult for many people to recover, right? And so, um, it's very, very, very difficult when we are living in a space where uh, mental health is something that is, for all practical purposes, it is relatively new to a lot of people in the African American community. And when I say new, I mean we've been talking about mental health for 10 years. 10 years is a very short time for something that has existed since the beginning of time, right? It's relatively new. But when you realize that there are different levels or different pieces of mental health, such as uh, like PTSD or depression or anxiety, and if someone has all three of those things and you're only treating one may help to, if I'm treating the PTSD, I may make myself more depressed by doing it. Or I may make myself have more anxiety because I'm only treating one thing. And therapy is something that can assist us in being able to deal with all of those things simultaneously. Right? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And so, that was that. I do have a comment here. Let me read this
Mhm.
comment. The comment reads, I was told my hyper independence is a trauma response. And now as a single mom, I refuse to even hold his father accountable. I don't bash him. He's not on child support or none of that. I don't even ask for a sitter unless it's for something medical because I chose to keep him and not abort. So he is solely my responsibility. Right? You
I
have
can
any?
definitely relate.
Okay, yeah. What do you want to respond to this comment, or you just?
Sure. I mean, I don't know what's like I said, I relate. Like I was one of those when I was younger, I had my son when I was 20 years old. I was one of those hyper independent people. I took care of everything. Um, like my son's dad, we were off and on. It got to the point where I was filling out job applications for him, his insurance, making sure that I went to work, he went to work, we had a ride, there was daycare. I didn't ask for help because it was my family. It was my responsibility to take care of everything. Um, and that definitely affected me negatively when it came to other romantic relationships because I brought that into the relationship, that
Mm-hmm.
hyper independence. And it would push people away. Um, being in a situation where you are forced to be in charge all of the time, it's not easy to turn that off.
Right.
It's not always easy to ask for help. And I know, especially as Black people, we don't ask for help. We don't want people in our
Right.
business. So we're not going to do that.
You know what? And
Um,
see, that's the other part. When you talk about mental health and you
hmm
talk about mental health, you talk about counseling and going to see a therapist. Oh, now I got to have these motherfuckers in my business. Now I got to expose so much of myself, right? Now
hmm
I have to talk to people about my shit, and it ain't even these people business what I got going on, right?
hmm
But the weird thing is, it's like I use a lot of examples, right? Just so that the people that are listening can understand and make sense of it. But what happens a lot of the times is you can't, if I got a briefcase in my hand and only I know what's in that briefcase, and I tell you, Lee, I need you to open up your purse and
hmm
dump everything out of your purse so that I can fill your purse with what's in my briefcase. And you get so caught up on shit that's in the bottom of your purse that you don't forgot about. Old shit that's in your purse that if you saw it, it'll make you mad that it's in there. Or shit that you think that holds value when it really doesn't,
hmm
right? You're holding on to a bunch of shit that don't mean nothing when you really sit down and think about it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here with this briefcase and you walk away from me, not knowing that this briefcase holds whatever it is that you desire the most.
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you need the most. It could be that this briefcase has $500 million in it.
Mm-hmm.
With that $500 million, you can take that and just do a lot of stuff that would help to ease a lot of your problems right now. The
Yeah.
same thing can be said for mental health. There's a lot of stuff that we keep bottled in. A lot of shit from our childhood that we keep bottled in, that we hold deep down inside, and we don't let it out. But the therapist's job is to get it out of us
Mm-hmm.
so that they can put something into us to make us better. Right?
Can you Google something for me quick?
Go ahead.
What are some of the causes of high blood pressure?
Okay, here we go. Causes of high blood pressure. I got 10 common ones right here, right?
Mm-hmm. Is stress anywhere on there?
Absolutely. I didn't have to look
Okay.
that up to tell you that.
I just wanted to make
Absolutely.
sure it was on that list.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
when I was saying before
Yeah, because
that,
I have that. Right, I
yeah.
have another comment, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a bunch of comments, but one of these comments is one that I think it is hilarious, and I'm going to read it to you so that you don't have to strain your eyes, right?
Oh.
It says we were taught to be strong and pray. My mom didn't believe in mental health. That didn't
Mm-hmm.
believe mental health was a real thing. Being sad and depressed meant I needed to pray harder,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, especially for those of us who grew up in these black families that were so tied to religion,
Mm-hmm.
that were so tied to the church, a lot of those people firmly believe that when you are depressed and you are sad, it is exactly what this young lady said that her mother would say,
Mm-hmm.
that I just need to go and pray harder, right?
Yep.
And then when you go and you pray, especially, if you come from the kind of shit we come from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of our family members, when they pray loud, but they don't pray hard.
Mm-hmm.
They be loud and just be wrong as hell, right? They be loud, but they be wrong, right? Because yes, I believe, my religious beliefs have nothing to do with uh, disregarding the advances in medical and mental sciences, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that two things can be true. Yes, I need Jesus, but I also need a therapist.
One thing I want to say to that is, a lot of people are like, pray to God, he'll fix it for you. I am not a super religious person, but we grew up in the church. We were there like 8 days a week.
Right.
My aunt would pack the car to, we would have to scoot out the bottom just to make sure we could all fit to go to church every day. Um, but one thing that people forget is, you're asking for help. You're asking for these things to make you better
Right.
when there is help there, right? We have the therapist there. They have the education to help you. There is help there. You're praying for help, but you won't go accept the help.
Right.
Oh, it was most definitely Church of God in Christ. Yes,
Right.
most
Right.
definitely.
Right. Hello.
I
I
had
put
some
it up there
pastors say
so
the
you can
same
see
thing.
it. Hello.
Yeah,
All right.
nothing is wrong with you. You just need to pray. Nothing wrong with you. Just go pray. Okay, okay, and you still need help.
Right.
We still need
And
help.
that's one of the things that's weird and dynamic and ironic, I should say, is that, a lot of the times, regardless, and this ain't necessarily got to do anything with mental health. This just have to do with prayer, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times you can pray for stuff and God will put something in front of you. If you don't walk towards what he puts in front of you, then you're praying for nothing. right? You could be praying for your mental health, and God could put a therapist in the church to be able to
Mhm.
help you. But because I don't want that nigga in my business, or I don't want to be sitting up there talking on the couch with some strange bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And opening myself up and all this other stuff. Then what are you doing? You know what I
Right.
mean?
I saw
What
this
are you
meme.
doing?
It
You
was
know
like
what
it
I
was
mean?
similar to this. It said it was they were asking for a cake, right? They wanted a cake, and they were given all of the ingredients to make the cake,
But they don't
but
want
they
to
didn't
take it.
get the cake the way that they wanted to, so their prayers went unanswered. I'm like, no, the ingredients are right here. It's right here
Right.
for you, but it's not.
Right.
It doesn't look the way that you want it to look. It doesn't look
Right.
the way that you expect it to look. So you miss it.
Right. And that's just crazy. Before we continue, I want to thank those that are watching right here on uh on Facebook and on YouTube. I see your comments coming in. I'm not ignoring you, but I have to look at a different screen for my people that's on Instagram. And I want to remind you all that on Instagram, when this live ends for you, you can always catch the remainder of this live on YouTube. Instagram only gives us 60 minutes to go live at a time. And so, that's that, right? But to go to this young lady's comment, you have to worry about confidentiality. Church folk tell all your business, right?
Hmm.
And so I get that. That's why we say now, when we're looking at mental health and we're looking at, seeking counseling or seeking therapy, to look outside of the confines of the church, right? Um, there are people that have gone to school, that have degrees and certifications, that this is their job, right? Again, I am not one of those people. I didn't go to school for to sit down and talk to people about mental health. I went to school to talk to the masses. My major was mass communications. I'm talking to the mass majority of the people that exist in society. However, the person that I married, that's what she went to school for. And so when you decide that you want to go and talk to your counselor, or you want to go and, talk to your pastor, or talk to people at the church, or, all this other stuff, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but these people are not built for that. They are all not built for that. Everyone has a lane. Your pastor's job is to give you the word from God. But your therapist's job is to open you up so that you can talk about your issues, so that you can empty yourself so that they can fill you back up with something to replace all of that shit that has caused the PTSD, and the shit that has caused the depression, and the shit that has caused the anxiety. That's their job,
Hmm.
right? Now, let's move on, right? There's number 4 on the 7 ways that childhood
Oh, we
trauma
weren't done yet.
impacts.
We were on number three still. What was number three?
Number 3 was the dual diagnosis.
And we were talking about. See, now this is one of my issues. I have memory loss. Before that, because I asked you to look up
Oh,
symptoms
you asked me to look up
of
the causes of
high blood pressure,
blood pressure.
and we were talking about bottling everything and keeping it in. And I
Right.
said this before, and I'll say it again. If you do not let some of these thoughts and emotions out, they will manifest themselves other ways, physically.
Right. And it
High blood
ain't
pressure.
just the stress, you know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
we're looking at these things. Dehydration is one of them.
Hmm.
Infection is one of them. You know what I'm saying? Stress is one
Right.
of them.
And with the
Allergic
stress,
reactions.
yeah, like holding that stuff, like that's what I was looking for, the stress part of it. We're holding this
Right.
stuff in, we're stressing ourselves out. It's going to come out one way or another.
Right.
Now it's
Hello.
it could be potentially manifesting itself in the form of high blood pressure. And like you said, what's one of the number one Black people have are more likely to have or to suffer from high blood pressure.
Right.
And I'm not
Right.
saying this is it's it's again, I am not a mental health professional. I am not giving any clinical advice. Seek a professional.
Right.
But just talking about that part, it's that to me is not just a coincidence.
Right. And you know what? On the flip side, let me put a comment up right here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this young lady said she had her first therapy session today, and it was very helpful. She was able to vent without her knowing her or being biased or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things that we as African American people are so concerned about is, this bitch don't know me. Why I got to
Mm-hmm.
open up to this bitch? You know what I'm saying? And this, that, and the third. But ultimately, like you said earlier, like you said, not more than 45 seconds ago, all of that shit that you got that's built up inside you, it has to come out. Because if it doesn't, you're going to be faced with a lot of other issues that could turn from a mental health situation into a physical health situation. Just stress and just a bunch, all of these things that you're looking at. Uh Endocrine issues, all of these things
Mm-hmm.
are going to be things that could potentially make you physically sick.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you get to the bottom of that, uh, hmm, you're gonna fuck around and make yourself sick, right? Now, number 4 on the 7 ways that childhood trauma impacts people as adults, and this is something that I suffer with today. Number 4 is a poor sense of self worth. Let me read what it says. It says trauma can strip people of confidence, especially children. A lifelong lack of confidence can lead to a person believing they are not worthy of stable relationships, good health, or a successful career. An unhealthy lack of self worth can translate to a life filled with feelings of isolation, loneliness, and general sense of despair.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before you get into shit as it relates to you,
Mm-hmm.
let me talk about me, right? When I saw this, I thought to myself, if I tell these people that watch me and these people that have known me or these people that work with me right now, if I told these people that I have a poor sense of self worth, they would refuse to believe it because they see me at work and they see me out in the street and they see me when I come home, to go to Mississippi to visit, and they see that I'm always up and I'm always the life of
Mm-hmm.
the party and I'm always, whatever, right? But most of the time, if we just gonna keep it funky, most of the time that shit is a facade. A lot of people that suffer from some form of mental health, that their mental health is not where they want it to be. A lot of these people are clowns, right? Metaphorically, right? And what happens at the circus? You got a person that goes in before the circus opens up and they paint on all of this stuff on their face, but they paint on a smile. And the
Mm-hmm.
smile is really, really, really big. Even if they frown, that smile that they painted on is always going to be up and it's always going to show a smile. But behind all that makeup, behind all of that makeup and the big ass shoes and the big ass clothes is a person that is suffering from a lot of shit. Is a person that has so many secrets that the rest of the world doesn't know about
Mm-hmm.
because they're so caught up in making sure that people don't see it And if people don't see it, people don't question us about it. And if they
Mm-hmm.
don't question us about it, we ain't got to fucking talk about it.
Can I
Right?
ask you a question?
Yeah.
Were you one of those strong people, one of those strong friends? Did
Yes.
people look at you that way? Okay. And I've seen this everywhere. Um, like a poster or a meme, or whatever, says check on your strong friends.
Yeah.
And when you were telling that story, this is not something about me, but it was it a few years ago, last year? My memory's off. Was it Miss America? Miss some beautiful black woman was in one of these pageants. I don't know if it was for the um Miss US or anything after that, but I think she won. I want to say she won,
Right.
or she was up there. And later she was found dead. She had committed suicide.
Mm.
But like you said, she was like those people. They're always on. They have these big smiles. They're ready to go. But like you said, behind that smile, what is happening?
Right. And the other thing she said that she won, the lady won, right?
Okay.
But here's the other part to it right now. My this right here, this motherfucking phone, right? My phone, I have a group of people that when my phone ring and I look at it and I know it's their name, I have to mentally prepare myself because they always got some shit with them. They
Mm-hmm.
always got some shit with them that I have to fix. That they need my help for this and they need my help for that, right? And the bigger issue is a lot of the times we as men, because women are different. Women, if you have a circle of people, you can find somebody in your circle that you can talk to about certain shit, right? Men, I'm in a group chat right now. You know what we do in my group chat with us men? We share pictures of titties and naked celebrities and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? That's
Okay.
all the fuck we do. We might end up talking about some other shit in terms of, and that's primarily what we do. But one of my friends that's in the group, he does, let me not, you know, belittle the shit that he does.
Mm-hmm.
He does reach out to us with mental health stuff and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's all titties. It's all
Mm-hmm.
ass. You know what I'm saying? It's regular shit that you would see men doing, right? With all of that being said, um, can I reach out to one of those guys and tell him that I'm hurting, that I'm dealing with some shit right now, that I need somebody to talk to? Your average man does not have someone like that. Meanwhile, when my phone rings, most of the people that call me, when they call me, it is expected that I stop what I'm doing to help them out with their crisis,
Mm-hmm.
with their mental health, with their whatever. Meanwhile, I got to put my shit on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I can't come to you and be like, Lee, I understand that you got some shit going on right now, but I'm a little bit more fucked up than you right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit more fucked up than you right now. So I can't take on your shit right now. If I say that to you, then you being your friend, a friend or whatever, you gonna take offense to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what we have to do as people, again, for ourselves, is we have to learn to tell those people that we love, Teresa, I can't fuck with you right now because I'm fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Latrice, I can't fuck with you right now because I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
Brittany, I can't fuck with you right now because I'm fucked up. Let me get me together, and then once I get me together, then I could come help you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We in the black community, we have a big problem with learning when to tell people no, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
Lee, if I call you and ask you for some money and you ain't got it, you gonna say, no, I ain't got it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help you. But if I call you and I tell you, Man, my wife getting on my nerves, my daughter getting on my nerves, my son getting on my nerves. You got a whole bunch of shit that you got going on in your head with yourself right now. You may have even had thoughts of terminating your own life just yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have no problem telling me, nigga, I ain't got $50, but I got 50 minutes to give you to
Mm-hmm.
talk about your problem, but you don't want to tell me about shit that you got going on because you are, this is what I know. You are like me in the sense that you can be, you ain't always gonna be, but you can be that person that motherfuckers blow the phone up to always talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna take on they shit because it's easier. And this is for me, I can't say for you, for
Mm-hmm.
me it's easier to have to listen to your problems and fix your issues than it is to fix my own. It's easier for me to listen to Lee and say, you know what, Lee, these are the things that you need to do because this is what would help you, da da
Mm-hmm.
da 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 da. Meanwhile, I'm scared to even touch my own shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
you know that saying, don't do as I do, do as I say.
Right. Hello.
So, like you said, whatever, if we're fucked up, right, we're gonna give you the best advice in the world.
Right.
Are we gonna take it ourselves? No, of course not.
Fuck no.
No, we got something to no. But to a point that you were talking about with I had a family member um that when they would call, it was always something. It was
Right.
always something. And it got to the point, like you said, I would see their name and I would just, you have to mentally prepare yourself.
Hello.
And it got to a point where I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. This is draining me. I have my own issues, you know. I cannot take on all of your heavy weight. And what they were doing was trauma dumping. I can't carry that for you. I cannot hold that.
Ooh.
I
Now,
can't do
I
it.
love that term. I've never heard that before. Trauma
Mhm.
dumping. That is some real shit, though.
Yeah, it is. And I had to, I'm like, I had to, keep my distance. I don't wish you any ill. I want you to get all the best, help. And I want wish you, the most successful life. I can't carry that for you right now. I
Right.
cannot do it. And it got to a point where, like you were saying in the beginning, I was one of those people. I was the strong friend. I was that friend. I was always done up. My hair was always done, manicure, pedicure every 2 weeks. I was put together all the time. I was going out. But
Right.
behind all of that was someone who was crying and needed help and didn't know how to ask for help.
Right.
When
And
I started,
before you
uh-huh,
continue, let me just remind the people that are watching over here on Instagram. The feed was shut down over here on Instagram in about 62 seconds. But you can always go and pick this feed up right now on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, type in Catfish or type in the Fish Bowl with Catfish, you will be able to pick up right where we left off. While you're over there, please make sure that you subscribe. Those of you that are watching on Facebook, uh, the feed will continue here on Facebook, but you can always go and watch it on YouTube, and you can keep the comments going on YouTube. You can also, while you're there, subscribe to this so that you can always make sure that you are up to date and catch all of the feeds as they happen in real time. Okay, Lee, you can proceed.
I forgot what I was talking about.
You put your hair and your makeup on, and you
Oh
be
yeah,
good.
I was one of those people. And when I started going through, like I said before, there's if you don't get help with your issues, they're going to manifest themselves one way or another.
Right.
And for me, I reached my breaking point a couple of years ago and I let myself go. I mean, when I say let myself go, it was bad. And I wish I had a before picture so y'all could see, but it was bad. We'll touch on the rest of it later. But when I started to get better, I stopped being that go-to person for everybody because I couldn't carry that anymore. That was bad for me. But I
Right.
wanted to help. I wanted to help everybody. And I can't do that. I cannot fix people. I can't help you, right? And so I need to take care of me. And so I started doing that. And when I stopped being that person, people were, you're changing, you're being different. I most definitely am being different. I am. I'm protecting myself. And I had a friend that I reached out to once, um, just to talk about some stuff that I was going through. And they answered the phone that, like, I love you to pieces, but I don't have the bandwidth for this right now. Not today. I can't do it today.
You know what? And at least you have the wherewithal to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least you have the wherewithal and the sense and the courtesy to say to your friends, I ain't got it in me right now to deal with your shit. You're not gonna say it as harsh. Well, maybe the fuck you would, depending on who the friend is, right? Because it is what it is. Me, I don't do that. I will cut myself off from people, and as far as these people are concerned, I have disappeared off the face of the earth for 6 months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I go through the whole process of, okay, sometimes I will deactivate my Facebook and I just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll call or you'll text, I won't respond. I won't answer the phone. I won't give you an explanation. I just
Mm-hmm.
won't fucking respond. Now, the bad part about that is 6 months later, when you do decide to call, I'll pick up the phone and I'll act like you just talked to me last week. Right? I can
Mm-hmm.
pick that shit up right where it left off. Right? But I need that time to get myself together. I need that time, that 6 months, that year, that 2 years. I need that time to focus on me
Mm-hmm.
because I can't deal with you and your shit and my shit. And also taking into consideration that you're not the only motherfucker that's calling me with your shit. I got 6 other motherfuckers that call me with their shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so for me, that's the thing that it is what it is. But that's just how I deal with a lot of that shit. But
Right.
to get back on topic, we're looking at the poor sense of self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that I know that I deal with. I know that I deal with it. Um, and the issue also is like, um, I can't go and talk to the person that I'm having sex with as a therapist. That's a conflict of interest, right? But I also know that uh looking at the poor sense of self worth and realizing that the lack of self worth, uh, it does give you those feelings of isolation and loneliness. But I just have to realize that I'm not as alone or as lonely as I make myself out to be. It's not that easy for everyone else, right? It's not that easy for everyone else. My out is that I realize that uh, there are people that I can reach out to. There are people that I can. I don't want to overuse, misuse the word that you just gave me, but a lot of the times those people would trauma dump on us. There are people that don't mind me being the person to do that with them.
Mm-hmm.
I just refuse to do that.
Yeah. I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah, and see, that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. Sometimes I have plenty of people that tell me, yo, if you ever going through some shit, you know what I'm saying? Reach out to your boy. I got you. I got you. Right? Well, what the fuck if I don't want to reach out to you? And it ain't necessarily got to be something that is you. It's just that with some of my people, I'm not comfortable with them. Someone in the comment in the chat, they made mention of it earlier. Uh, some of these folks just want to be in your business because they nose is fucked.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Some of these people want to be in your business just so they want to know what the fuck you got going on. Especially, and I'm not saying that I am, I ain't no big time nobody, right? But the person that people see when they go to work with me, and the person that people see when I'm on the internet, um, is different than the person that I have to see when I look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that I see when I look in the mirror doesn't trust a lot of the people that see me on a regular basis
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know the person that I see when I look in the mirror. They don't know that catfish. They know the one that's with them, like you say, with the makeup on and the hair.
Mm-hmm.
They know that me, and because they don't know who I see when I look in the mirror, that contributes, I think, to uh, the reason that my confidence has been stripped,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I also look at it, and but we're also talking about this shit as relates to your childhood and has how it translates into your adult life. Can you pinpoint a particular instance from your childhood where you figured out that something happened that stripped you of your confidence as a child?
So, in our family, we talk about everybody
Yeah.
from birth to death.
Yeah,
We're
we
going to
gonna
talk
talk
about you.
shit.
We going
We
to talk about you.
we gonna talk shit.
When I was like young, elementary school, I was super skinny. I was really, really thin. I was called bag of bones, string bean. Um, One of my aunts said that my head looked like a duck 'cause I had a big head and a skinny body. Um, a lot of that, I would say that affected that had an impact.
Okay.
Um, One thing I noticed, and this is probably one of my issues for being a people pleaser. I don't know if everybody else experienced this, but I know growing up, and I love my mother to death, but she wasn't the most affectionate person. Like we
Mm-hmm.
didn't do the hugs, we didn't say I love you. We weren't those people. Um, and we would always focus on the negative. And I'll give you an example. Like if I got my report card right, I got two A's, two B's and a C minus. We're going to focus on that C
We're gonna focus
minus.
on that C minus.
We're going to
Yeah.
focus on that C minus. We're not going to look at the A's and the B's, right? We're going to focus on that C minus. So you always had to be better. It's like sometimes you felt like, they didn't like you, you weren't good enough. I mean, as an adult, I got to talk to her and we cleared everything up. But as a child, you don't have that.
Right.
You're just that's what you know.
Yeah, and as a child, you have to eat that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's ironic that you say that because I have to catch myself when it comes to my own child
Mm-hmm.
with and it shouldn't be different, but it is. I made it that way, and I shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I looked at things that were going on with my son versus my daughter, it should not have been different. And I could see so many errors that I made with my son that I'm
Mm-hmm.
purposely not making with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But um, I also look at it because, like, when you were coming up, you know, when we were coming up, because I'm a little older than you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
But when I
You a
was
lot older.
coming up,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it was whatever the adults say is what the fuck you got to do. You don't
Yes.
question what the fuck an
Nope.
adult says, right? Now, in your mind as a child, you may not be able to understand why you got to do what the grown folks say when they say it and how they say it, but you also know that if something is in your little 7, 8, 9, 10-year old conscious telling you that this shit mama talking about is some bullshit. Mama don't know what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
She need to make it make sense to me so that I can know what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, to be able to just have that conversation with your mother or your father at 7, 8, 9 years old, back in our time, yeah, you getting slapped in the damn mouth. You're gonna be swallowing some teeth.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna be swallowing some teeth. And with my son, it was the same way because I felt like I'm supposed to be raising my child the way I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a big age gap between my daughter and my son. My son is, I'm 46. My son's 26. My daughter is turning 14 next month.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so with that big age gap, you realize that there's different shit that you have to look at.
Yeah.
And so now I tell my daughter, you can be as respectful as possible with the utmost respect. But if you feel like something that I said for you to do doesn't make sense, come to me and tell me that it don't make sense so that I can break it down for you. So that I
Right.
can, because even if, but this is one of the things that we as black parents don't want to do. If the child realizes there's a better way of doing something, we don't want to tell the child that they are right and that mama was wrong or that daddy was wrong. Because it's always supposed to be our way.
Mm-hmm.
It's always supposed to be our idea. It's supposed to be our instruction. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But now these children are coming up and they have access to so much stuff. They have access to so many things, and like, I wish to a certain degree that I had access to the shit that they have access to. I wish that the ideology or the just the mere mention of the two words mental and health together existed when we were that age, because it may have made us, it probably would have made us better adults,
Mm-hmm.
because those adults that raised us would have had more of a consciousness of mental health and how it affects children and how it could eventually help to make those people either great adults or fucked up adults.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And there are a lot of ways that I can look at you know, and see how my daddy, I can see different ways that my daddy was like just putting good shit in me, but I also see a lot of fucked up things that he put
Mm-hmm.
in me. I can see those good things that my mama put in me. I can also see those bad things that are there. And some of those bad things that they put there, it's not their fault.
Right.
It's not their fault because they're only putting into us what was put into them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it goes along with the generational trauma that we're about to get into. You know what I'm saying? It goes into that. Because it's just, it's, oh man, we look, because
That
we
might
can
be
go
another
up.
episode. Like that's a whole
Yeah,
separate
you know
large
what, and that's
conversation by
probably what we
itself.
need to do. You hear me? What we probably need to do is uh we're gonna do another episode specifically on generational trauma.
Ooh, good. I have some books for reference too.
Right. And I got a couple of websites up. I'm gonna keep them shits up because we still got two more things that we need to talk about in terms of the 7 ways that childhood trauma impacts adults impacts us as adults.
Mm-hmm.
Uh well, three. We got because we already touched on the poor sense of self-worth. Flashbacks. This is easy. Flashbacks. Survivors of childhood trauma who have not learned how to cope with triggers that bring back the memories of their traumas are sometimes unable to stop reliving the horror of their experiences. Flashbacks to childhood traumas are like reliving the event over and over, which can be absolutely crippling. Now,
Mm-hmm.
um, the crazy thing for me is, um, this is one of the few things that I don't have to worry about. Because there's a lot of stuff that I went through, um, but I was a different kind of child. I was fucked up, right? And I'm saying I was fucked up, but it was a good thing for me to say that I was fucked up because I spoke my mind at an early age. I got so many ass whoopings from the adults in our family because I spoke my mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I got something to say, I'm gonna say it, and I'll deal with the
Yeah.
consequences after the fact. But I'm gonna say what the fuck I gotta say. There have
Mm-hmm.
been times where I've said stuff to my own mama, and I've gotten ass whoopings about it. And then years later, my mama came to me and she apologized to me for giving me that ass whooping. It was just that I said some real ass shit, and at the time that I said this real ass shit to her, it hurt her feelings,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but I always believe if you got some, if I'm not the person that you need to call and ask for advice, because I'm gonna say some shit that's gonna hurt your feelings. It's gonna come from a good place, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna say it from a good place. If I'm telling you you fucked up, I'm gonna let you know that you fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And those of you that are watching that, like uh Teresa, hey, how you doing? Uh Teresa, well, I'm sorry, you got to go to work. But Teresa, she know me, but she don't know me. I don't be on the phone talking with Teresa. But if Teresa called me and asked me some shit, I'm gonna cuss her the fuck out. I'm gonna let her know what it is, right? But because of that, I have this weird gift about compartmentalizing shit, right? Once I compartmentalize it, I can look at Lee and I can look at you and say that you're my cousin, but I can also say this part of you is my cousin, this part of you is my friend, this part of you is a woman, this part of you is a mama. And I can look at you and say you're a good mama, but you're a fucked up cousin. You're a good friend, but you're a fucked up this, right? And once I
Mm-hmm.
find that fucked up part of you, I can erase that shit from you and that shit don't exist to me no more, right? So in
Mm-hmm.
terms of me having to deal with flashbacks, a lot of that shit that happened, um, I don't have to worry about those memories of it because I done took that part of you and I done put that shit to the back burner. That shit don't exist to me no more, right? That shit don't exist to me no more. Partly because I'm a piece of shit. Partly
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
piece of shit, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I say that is because sometimes when I know I'm a piece of shit, I hold on to that shit until I get an opportunity to use it as revenge. Once I have used it as revenge, then it's on the back burner. I did what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
I wish I
that's
was
just
that way.
huh?
I said I wish I was that way.
Yeah. And I realize that everybody can't move and
Right.
be like that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just me. I know that flashbacks is not a thing that I suffer from. I also realize that some people that deal with childhood trauma can't shake a lot of those things that happen from their childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say this: there was one instance that I was unaware of, and I wish that I was told about it, right? Um, because now it makes me messed up, but and I shouldn't. Well, fuck it, I'm gonna say it anyway, right? So at one point in time, my mom had, she was with my dad, and then they got divorced, right? And so my mom got remarried, and then they got divorced, and then she got remarried again, right? So now you caught up, right? She got remarried again, right? The guy that she remarried, he had two children. My mama got two children, right? And what happened was, I'm friends with this guy's son. His son is like 2 years older than me, or a year older than me, or something like that. I'm friends with him anyway, right? But I didn't know that my mama and him was dating. But when they started dating, I was like, oh, it's cool. So now I feel like I got an older brother or whatever, right? This dude would come over to the house, spend the night over our house, and him and his baby sister, who was much younger than me and my sister, They would come over to the house and da 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 da. And then for some reason, he just stopped coming over to the house. I don't know why this nigga stopped coming over to the house, but he just stopped coming over. I would still see him at school, hang out with him and shit like that. Even when I graduated college, and I graduated when I went to college, he would come to my dorm room because he was going to our rival university. He would come down and, you know, we would just hang out and kick it and shit, right? The whole time, I didn't realize until this dude passed away. He passed away maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't realize until he passed away that every time I mentioned when I saw him, he would ask me, how your mama doing? And, you know, how your sister doing? And I would tell my mom and my sister that they asked about him, that he asked about them, I should say. But it wasn't until I found out that he passed away, and I called my mom and I called my sister to tell them that he passed away. My sister was like, "What you telling me for?" And hung up the phone. I'm like, okay, you know, what the fuck going on with her?
Mm-hmm.
You know. And I called my mama and told my mama that, you know, something strange going on with my sister. She done hung up on me because I told her that this nigga died. Right? And I'm trying to figure out if I'm actually gonna go to this nigga funeral.
Mm-hmm.
My mama gonna tell me that she stopped him from coming over to the house because he made sexual advances toward my sister, and they kept that shit from me. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, they kept the shit from me for years. Like, I didn't know it until he passed away. Right? But you don't realize that my sister thought that I knew all this time that that shit had happened and that I was still befriending this guy. So all these years, I'm thinking that I don't know what the fuck is going on with me and my sister, why we can't be tight. My mama then told my sister that, you know, this dude can't come to the house no more, and thought that I knew that the dude couldn't come to the house. The whole time, my mama and my stepfather, they didn't tell me because they knew how my temper was, and they knew at that time that I was going to do some stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
And they just allowed me to keep being friends with this dude. They allowed me, excuse me, to keep doing it. And when he passed away and all of that, the truth came out. That's kind of the only flashback that I had to deal with, because I'm thinking about all of the motherfucking times that I'm hanging out with this nigga, knowing that this nigga done tried to violate my sister, and my mama and, you know, my stepfather, they allowed me to keep hanging out with this nigga, and my sister mad at me all these fucking years. I'm talking 20 years.
Mm.
Because I'm still cool with it. I'm cool with this dude until the day he died. And now they tell me this shit, and now it's like, fuck this nigga. Because he tried to violate my sister. But you can't say to your mama, well, you can't say it, because, like, your average person is not going to be talking to their mama kind of reckless.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not your average person. Right? But, you know, ultimately, it's like, why did you allow me to still hang out with this nigga this whole time? And you see that that is the catalyst for the reason that me and my sister were not as close as we could have been. You talking about some motherfucking childhood trauma that is putting a wedge between siblings because one sibling think that her brother is cool with the nigga that tried to rape her. Come on now. That is the only shit that I can look at and I can say, you know what? That is, you know, the only real flashback, because now I flash back to all of the times that I done hung out with this nigga and been like, This is the time that I could have got revenge on this motherfucker. This is the time that I could have got revenge. Again, my mind is a fucked up
Mhm.
place. Right?
Yeah, I believe it.
But yeah. I'm
Did
sorry. Go
you
ahead. You
did
go ahead.
no, I was just laughing. Did you or have you, I mean, since then worked on rebuilding that relationship with your sister?
Yeah, you know what? And it's crazy because like, is I realize that the relationship with me and her, those years of her thinking that I was cool with this guy because of the event, I
Hmm.
can't get those years back. Them
Right.
20 years is gone. That time is gone, right?
Hmm.
I also realize in my adult life that um there are certain aspects of people that you like, and there are certain aspects of people that you don't like. What has happened for me, which was a blessing for me at a very young age. When I'm talking very young, I mean like 7, 8 years old. I'm able to look at my mama and say,
Hmm.
yes, this is my mama. And I love the title mama. But I'm also able to look at this person and see that this person has character. This person has personality. This person has flaws. I can
Hmm.
look at these different aspects, again, compartmentalization. I can look
Hmm.
at those different parts of that person and determine if I like that person, right?
Hmm.
I can look at certain aspects of anybody and pick out parts of them that I don't like. And if you got enough parts of you that I don't like, I'm not fucking with you.
Hmm.
I have some of my mother's siblings, some of my mother's siblings, I ain't fucking with at all. Like at all. Right? Like when I say at all, I mean like if I'm sitting here drinking on this and my bladder get full and one of the motherfuckers walk in here and they on fire, I would not use my urine to put them out. I would not. Meanwhile, I can look at my own mama and I can say my mama was good this, good this, good this, good this. This part of my mama I don't like, so I ain't gonna fuck with her on that aspect,
Hmm.
right? And so even with my sister, I'm realizing that there's more aspects of my sister that I'm starting to realize that I'm not fond of, right?
Hmm.
But I choose not to focus on the parts that I'm not fond of and focus on the aspects of her that I do enjoy, that I do love. And
Hmm.
I focus on those things. And I'm like, okay, when I am dealing with you in this capacity, you are tolerable to me. And I love those parts of you, right?
Hmm.
A lot of us can't do that. A lot of us don't have that skill, that ability to be able to look at people and dissect them and shit like that.
I mean, agreed, but I think it looks different for people too. I mean, I've never looked at it like, compartmentalizing all of their, you know, hats for, per se, but um there are certain, even family members, right, that you are my family member and I love you. I know I can hang out, tolerate you for this long.
Right,
We're going to do that, right?
right,
Or I know if we hang out, it's going to be this type of situation. So this is the only time that we will interact is in this type of environment.
yeah,
Um, so for me, it looks like that. I don't, I can't do the other part that you do, but it's not for me. And that's fine.
right.
Hmm.
So we got two more things, and then what we're gonna do, because this shit is good, but it's gonna be too long for everybody, right? So we're gonna break into a part two, and we'll do another part probably in February because I got some already lined up for next week, right? But the last two ways that childhood trauma impacts people as they become adults are both a heightened response to stress. Well, let's focus on that one first. Number
Hmm.
6, a heightened response to stress. And let me read it for you. While some survivors may not struggle with flashbacks, they may have unusual responses to stressful situations, such as difficulty relaxing, an aversion to loud noises, being jittery or jumpy in some social situations. Stress is a normal human response experienced by everyone in certain situations, but for survivors of childhood traumatic events, it can be much more pronounced and sometimes debilitating.
Hmm.
Do you feel that there's something that you deal with a heightened response to stress?
In certain situations, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yep.
Wait, hold on. Somebody text. See this stress right here. You know what? Let me be quiet.
Yes.
Let me
I
be
put my
quiet.
phone on do not disturb.
Yeah, and
I
see,
I
I be wanting to put my shit on. You know what? We'll talk about that because that shit ain't important, right?
well, no,
But
I do that for my mental health. I
right,
will, and I have it set up where Langston and my dad can get through. That's
right,
it. In the case of an
right,
emergency. Otherwise, I'm not dealing with y'all. I can't. I don't. It's not that deep today.
right,
Hmm.
right. Yeah, now the only thing that I can say is when I'm looking at some of these examples are to responses to stressful situations,
Hmm.
like difficulty relaxing and aversion to loud noises, being jittery or jumpy in some social situations. I
Hmm.
can see myself having some of those examples, some of those samples.
Hmm.
Um, but again, I don't think that, and I could be wrong because again, I'm just having sex with a professional. I haven't. I'm not a professional, right? Uh, but I don't think that any of those particular things are things that have derived from childhood trauma for myself,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm looking at these things, and again, we're looking at the 7 ways that childhood trauma impacts people as they become adults. I don't think that that is one of the things for me. I
Hmm.
can definitely see it being something that could happen with other people.
Hmm.
That shit just ain't for me.
Right.
What about you?
I don't know.
Right.
Partially because if I'm going to be 100% honest, I have maybe three memories from my childhood, and up until I a lot of that has been blacked out, and I do not know why. We are still unpacking that.
You know
Um,
what? It's
mhm,
ironic that you say that, right? Because there are a lot of times when my sister would call me because my sister doesn't remember a lot of shit from me being fifth grade, her being third grade, from her third grade year on back to birth. She don't remember shit,
mhm,
right? And sometimes it even goes up to like she don't remember shit from when I was ninth grade, she was seventh grade. Sometimes it goes back that far. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
Like all of that shit is a fucking not just a blur. It's just like that shit didn't exist. Like she
Yes.
was born and then she was fucking seventh grade.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The reverse is for me, right? Like I don't know what color drawers I got on right now, but I can remember shit. I have friends that one of these motherfuckers just texted me. I have friends that will call me and ask me about shit that happened while we were in high school and we were in elementary school. And
Mhm.
I can tell them what happened. I can tell them what day of the week it was. I can tell them what fucking color Power Ranger shirt they were wearing. I remember all of that shit.
Mhm.
But do I know if I got on drawers right now? Well, I know I got some on. I just don't know what color they are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Do I got drawers
Yeah.
on?
You stupid.
Yeah, I got on drawers. Right. And the last thing that we the last thing that we're gonna look at, right? Uh in terms of those 7 things, is a loss of self.
Mm. Mhm.
The effects of childhood trauma on the vulnerable, underdeveloped mind can lead to an adult who struggles with a sense of identity or feeling that they need to be different people in different settings.
Mhm.
Some may even believe that they don't have a real sense of who they are. That can make it extremely difficult for a person to maintain healthy relationships, to keep a job for a considerable amount of time, or even know what it is that will satisfy nagging feelings of insecurity. Nigga, if that ain't me right
Oh,
there, right?
I will say this about that. I
That is me all day.
and obviously we don't have time to go into the details, maybe another conversation. Um what I do remember in childhood was that I did suffer from an assault. Young age, and I remember very like just bits and pieces of it.
Right.
And what I, have unprocessed is, for whatever reason, growing up in, elementary school and high school and middle school, I was boy crazy. I wanted a boyfriend all the time. Um, and it got to the point where, when I was more comfortable, like as an adult, like right out of high school, I, for a period of like, we'll say 10 years, I have been in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
just back to back to back. I needed that, right? And I would become whatever that person wanted or needed.
Right.
That's what I did. That was my like, this is my job. I'm going to be what they need me to be. Who am I outside of them? I don't know. That's why is that relevant? Right? It took
Mm.
until I don't even know how many years ago. Um where I'm like, I'm going to just be single right now cuz this is a problem. I can't blame all these men for this. Like if I'm the common denominator, something's wrong, right? Let me take a step back. And I went to, try to just took some time to figure out who Lee was,
Right.
right? Who is Lee? Without, describing me as someone else's, so like outside of Langston's mom, who am I? Right? And it took, I mean, I'm saddened that it took, so long to get to that point. But at the same time, I am happy that now I know I'm a person and not this chameleon type thing for other people. Still working out the details and trying to figure out, more about myself, but I think that was a big one. That one, I wasn't ready for that number 7. But yeah, that
Yeah.
that had a large impact on me.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing is like, when you sit down and really think about it, right? When I look at it, I look at, if I go back up to the poor sense of self worth, right?
Mhm.
I go back to the poor sense of self worth and then a loss of self, right? I think now that I look at myself more as a loss of self than the other, right?
Mhm.
Because I can definitely see where, because it says here, uh, feelings that they need to be different people in different settings.
Mhm.
Nigga, that's me all day. You know what I'm saying? And it's like there's a difference between knowing how to act in one place and another place.
Mhm.
I can't be in church talking about I need to see them titties. That's wrong. I might say it in my head like, the first lady got some real nice titties. I wonder
Oh
what
my
they look like.
Jesus. Okay, we're
You
not
know what
gonna
I'm
do that.
saying? But
Mhm. Mhm.
there's a difference between knowing what to say and where to say it than realizing that you are two different people. And
Mhm.
when you can pinpoint that you realize that you have to become different people because of an experience that you faced in your childhood, which ultimately you can look back at it and say, you know what, maybe this was a traumatic childhood experience, right?
Mhm.
Seeing uh seeing shit happen to your parent, seeing the man that helped make you the man that you are today be physically abusive to the woman that you call your mama,
Mhm.
and then realizing that you got to be one way when all of us are out in town. We have to paint this picture that we just happy for some, my
Mhm.
mama, dad, and my sister, and me. We got to paint this picture that we just happy for some, but then when we get home, it's a whole different thing.
Mhm.
But then I got to go to my grandmama house, and I have to remember that when you go to your grandma's house, you can't talk about what happened in this house.
Mm-hmm.
You can't talk about what happened when we was at the store. You can't talk about what happened. So I got to be this person. And then depending on which grandmama house I go to, one of my grandmamas is gonna be like, oh well, let's go to church and we gonna stay the whole weekend at church. And the other one is gonna be like, well, what the fuck you wanna do? Cause I don't know why the fuck you here. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like you realize that you become different people when you go different places, and you don't realize that that shit is been embedded in you because of shit that you've seen as a child, and then you grow up and you realize that some of these people have to be different. I can't use myself for this situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can look at some of my friends, right? Some of my partners can't be the same way with me that they are with their wife, that they are
Right.
with their mama, that they are with their daddy. They four different niggas, right? Me, I realize now that listening to myself read that, it made me understand why I was the way that I was, but it also made me realize why I stopped doing the shit that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because at some point you realize that while you're trying to be different people in different settings, parts of you were being fake, parts of you were being fraudulent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at least for me, if I'm gonna be an asshole, I'm gonna be an asshole all the way across the board.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Don't.
an asshole at home, and a lot of my friends and some of my coworkers was in the chat earlier. Some of my coworkers will tell you I am one of the most lovable assholes that you ever want to meet. As long as you put the asshole on it, I don't give a fuck what adjective you put in front of it. As long as you recognize that I'm an asshole in every aspect of my daughter, if she wasn't scared to cuss, she would describe me as a fun asshole. Yeah, I can be fun, I can be this, I can be that, but at my core, that's who the fuck I am.
Yeah. I've been called an asshole by you.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what the fuck
Mhm.
I do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
And other
and but
people, but
yeah,
I
but see,
I
that's the
am an
thing.
asshole, but I love you. I love you to pieces.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I love you right back with your rag glass. But
Mm-hmm.
here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. The thing about it is that we have to realize that when we're talking about mental health and we're talking about childhood trauma that comes from mental health, we have to realize that it is never too late to acknowledge what has transpired in our past
Mm-hmm.
that has helped us to make us who we are today. Acknowledging what happened back then to show you what you are today is going to help make you a better person tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of us, we are scared to go back into the past and look at the shit because some of us don't want to relive that shit, and some of it is very traumatic.
Yeah.
But we have to live it. We have
You
to
have to do
go
the work.
back. We have to go back. We have to revisit those things. Because if we don't revisit those things and we continue on the path that we're on, we're gonna always end up where we've always ended up.
Right.
Um,
If
and
if you've
again,
never resolved the issue, you're gonna you're gonna keep repeating it.
yeah, you're gonna keep repeating it. And remember, like I said before, I am not a mental health professional. I am just having sex with one for a long time.
I am so done with you. I want to say also that I mean, I believe there's different reasons why, you know, we as people don't seek help. I will say this, and maybe another time I can go into my story. Um, but I don't know if they do this in Georgia. When you go to the doctor for like just a physical or whatever, right? Do they ask
Hmm.
you about your mental health? Do they ask you like, or just like your sheet that you have to fill out?
Okay, so for me, you
Hmm.
would have to ask a regular person. I go to the VA for all of my shit.
Okay.
It is
So, okay.
mandatory that the VA asks about mental health and PTSD and
Hmm.
all that other shit. It is mandatory that they ask about that. So
Okay. So
every
I
time I go, they always ask about your mental health. Do you ever had any thoughts of killing yourself? Da da da
hmm
da da da. They have the same little spiel that they ask each and every time I go to the VA.
right. So, okay. So here I know in Minnesota, they, well, doctors that I've gone to, they, there will be this sheet or a couple of sheets that they want you to fill out regarding your mental health. It's not mandatory at all, but it'll be part of the little clipboard for you to, when you review your medications. And until 2022, I never filled out the form. Like, yeah, everything's fine. I'm fine. Barely didn't even read the questions.
Right.
2022, I think it was February or March. I went in, I'm like, let me look at these questions. Let me answer these questions as honestly as I possibly could. And I did that. And that spiraled into a whole shit show. But long story short, I found a therapist. I needed a therapist. And I'm thinking everything, in my life outside of, so this is around the time that my mother had passed. Outside of that, everything was normal for me.
Right.
And I go to the therapist and, she's doing their initial assessment and she asked me this question. I'm like, I don't think anything is, seriously wrong. I'm sad my mom passed away, right? And she asked me this question and I looked at her like she was crazy. I'm like, this crazy white lady is being weird right now. She said, do you know how they cook frogs in a restaurant? And I'm like, bitch, my mama's died, right? I'm sad. I don't even eat frog. I don't care how they do that.
Right.
And this is what I'm thinking. And she says to me, because the answer is no. She said, well, they can't boil them. If you put a frog in boiling water, they're going to jump out. So how do you cook the frog? She said they put them in, like, room temperature water and they slowly turn up the heat. And then before you know it, the water is boiling, but the frogs, their body temperature has already been acclimated to that hot temperature. So they're not going to jump out. They're used to it now.
Hmm.
And she said to me, she said, that is you. You are a high functioning depressed person. You have gotten so used to and accustomed to all of these things. You
That's
don't
crazy.
see it as an issue. It's normal to you. None of this is healthy. None of this is normal. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know it was as bad as it was. I will definitely say that. But I'm seriously thinking that, everybody has these issues. They might. And if they do, they need to get some help. But I really thought that my life was normal. I thought everything I was experiencing was normal. Nope.
Yeah, and it's crazy because when you put it in those terms, a lot of the stuff that a lot of the stuff that we are experiencing, we have a tendency to think that if I'm going through it, then somebody else has gone through it before, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just because someone else has gone through it before doesn't mean that they've gone through all of the shit that you're going through at the same fucking time,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I can even, excuse me, I can even look at, we talking about when, like, when my father passed away,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was it was weird for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm saying it was weird is because my father and I, as well as my sister and my father,
Mm-hmm.
we both had our own relationship with our dad.
Mm-hmm.
My sister would talk to my dad almost every week. I might talk to my dad on the phone, 4 or 5 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we talked for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he talked. I just listened. Right. But even when I went home to visit him, I would go to his house. I would sit down with him for about 30, 45 minutes, no more than an hour. And, that'd be that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a part of that is because like me and this nigga had beef with each other that started when my stepfather passed away
Mm-hmm.
when I was in high school. My daddy was upset at how my stepfather was in the obituary. They listed my stepfather as having 4 kids as opposed to 2,
Mm-hmm.
right? My daddy didn't like that too tough. But the nigga came at me like I wrote the damn article
Mm-hmm.
in the paper. And so I'm going off on him, he going off on me, and I walked the fuck off, right? Now, as time went on, neither one of us apologized for that situation. But we learned to coexist. We learned to live in the world without having to bring that shit up again.
Mm-hmm.
And the week before he had his stroke, I'm talking about 7 days prior, we actually sat down and I sat down with this nigga for about 3.5 hours
Mm-hmm.
and we ironed out all of our issues.
Mm-hmm.
We ironed out everything that we had, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? From that situation to situations with my mama to situations with me and him to just everything. We had opportunity to iron all that shit out.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt good to walk away from that because I'm like, okay, now I feel like I can have a father, a true father son relationship as opposed to, I'm just going to see my daddy because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then 7 days later, he had a stroke, and after them 7 days was over with, he had the stroke, and then
Mm-hmm.
5 days after that, he's gone. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, I take some solace in knowing that we resolved all of our issues right before he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
My sister didn't get that opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to resolve any issues that she may have had with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just for her, that's her shit. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? But as far as I'm concerned, I thought that I was cool, right?
Yeah.
But then, you look at shit and you look at, I got classmates that have lost parents and lost their fathers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that when you lose somebody, you focus so much on the old shit that you
Yeah.
don't focus on the shit that could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And I was focused so much on that shit that it fucked me up because I don't know. I was thrown off
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't process the fact that this football season that came right after my daddy passed away,
Yeah.
my football team and his football team played each other. And I actually, like, my dad passed away in September. My team played his team early October. And I turned the TV on and I saw that my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, was playing the fucking Chicago Bears. And my first instinct, I picked up the phone and I called this nigga, and the phone ringing and ringing and ringing. And I'm like, why this nigga ain't answering the phone? Oh, this nigga ain't never gonna answer the phone no more.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't never gonna be able to have those conversations.
Right.
And then I look back and I'm like, I let shit that he said, which was fucked up from the past, keep me from being able to have those conversations for 20 some years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it fucks you up, you know what I'm saying? And we can, you know what? We can get into all of that shit because I'm looking at the timer here. We are 5 minutes short of 5 minutes short of 2 hours on this particular episode, right?
Right. And we haven't even gotten to the real meat and potatoes.
No, we haven't. We just scratched the surface. We just scratched the surface because I got a whole nother shit right here. So what we'll
Mm-hmm.
do, let me look at my calendar because I got my Oh, look at that, February the 1st. You want to shoot for February the 1st?
I don't have any plans, so let's do it.
Okay, so we'll shoot for February the 1st. So next week, ladies and gentlemen, next week, I'm gonna have Miss Mosley, who's been in the chat here for a little while tonight. Miss Mosley and I, we both served in the United States Navy together on board the USS George Washington. We gonna talk about all of the fuck shit that we used to do when we was in the Navy, but we're also gonna talk about the fuck shit that the military does to its veterans once they get out. Right? Uh, and next week is also going to be special because next week, she is actually going to be right here beside me. So that's going to make the conversation even more interesting. And what we're also going to do is going to have some other people that I served in the Navy with. They're going to join us via satellite and shit like that. So it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful experience. But the following week, Lee and I will be back here to continue part 2 of our conversation about mental health within the African American community, and more importantly, to discuss some of the things that we as African Americans, some of the trauma, the mental health issues that we get are inherited and we don't realize it because it is generational, right? And we'll talk about those things next week. Well, in 2 weeks, right? Do you have anything you want to say to the good damn people before we leave?
I did. And being, true to who I am and definitely your cousin, did you know that sexual kinks are also inherited? It's they're
What?
yeah.
So you telling me that
Basically,
I like titties and feet because somebody passed that shit on down to me.
yeah. Or you
I'm
just like
like,
what you like. All of them, not all of them. I don't know if that's a kink though. Well, feet might be, yeah. But some kinks are yeah, yeah. So yo people was doing some stuff.
so now I want to know if
No, you don't.
oh, no, no, no. Yes, I do. So check it out, right? So now what I need to do is I need to have two cousins, one on my mama's side and one on my dad's side, right? And I need to figure out what those kinks are so I can figure out which one of my parents was with the shit, right? Because if hypothetically speaking, because this shit should make sense, right?
hmm
So if you got a sexual kink and I have the same sexual kink, that means that on our both of our mama side, somewhere up there, them folks was doing some of the same shit that we enjoy. And that's where we got the shit from. Right? So
That's what the
like
study said. I will send you the article, but
so
yes,
yeah, so
basically.
hypothetically speaking, if I like to eat ass and you like to have your ass ate, that means that somebody up in our family, they had a big ass eating situation going on. Right?
I don't
Now,
think all of those are kinks though.
I'm just saying, okay, so what would you consider a kink? Let's talk to me now.
So we can say like a foot fetish or whatever, right? Some stuff just naturally feels nice. Okay.
Right.
Some stuff would make the devil blush.
Yeah,
Those,
like motherfuckers who like to get shitted on.
okay. There
Right?
are those people. hmm
Okay, so hypothetically speaking,
Possibly yeah, somebody possibly.
right. So hypothetically speaking, let's just say I enjoy the wonderful time of shitting on people, right? During sex.
hmm
And let's also say that you enjoy being shitted on, right? If I enjoy doing it and you enjoy receiving it, that means that somewhere on our family tree, someone up there passed it on to us, right?
It's a
Now,
possibility. Yes.
right. So, and I think that, the shit, either if you're shitting on or if you're doing the shitting, It's like having twins. I think that shit skips generations, right?
The fuck? How would
Right?
you know? You
I'm
would
just
not know unless you knew what people did.
well,
I
I'm
don't want to
just
know
saying.
what these people did.
So what I'm just saying is that it makes it easier, right? Hear me out. It
I'm
makes it
listening.
easier to know that it skips generations because if it didn't skip generations and it's on both of our side, that means that the possibility of my mama being shitted on or your mama being shitted on is high. But if it skips that generation and it goes to my grandmama and your grandmama, it makes the blow a little easier to take.
You
Because
still want to
neither
picture
one of
your
us wants
grandmama
to
like
think.
that though? You don't. And I
I
know I
mean,
don't.
I would much rather my grandmama be doing it than my mama. Because,
Okay.
when they were back in the day, you know what I'm saying, they ain't have shit else to do.
That's why I got a bunch of kids. I don't
That's
know.
why they
I
got a
don't.
bunch of kids. Yeah. So now, send me that article because I'm finna do me some motherfucking research, you heard me? I promise
I
you I'm
will
doing the
send it.
research tonight.
Okay.
I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna put this cigarette in the air. I'm covering up the name of the cigarette because ain't nobody paid me for it yet. I also want to say one more thing before we go. Right, let me open up my Instagram real quick. You heard me? Um, I want to say one more thing, and then I will end this. Right here. Right. Give me 1 minute. Let me open my phone up. Uh, what the fuck is it? Ladies and gentlemen, if you are on if you're in the metro Atlanta area, I need you to go and follow this young lady. Her name is Foxy Tenders, FOXXYTENDERS. This lady, uh she makes some wonderful CBD and THC products. I've been slowly but surely sipping on this one all night for the last 2 hours since I've been on here with Lee. And when I tell you I am feeling right, I am feeling right, and I am feeling right tonight. Uh, she's in the metro Atlanta area. She has pop up shops and stuff like that. So catch her when you can. Uh, yeah, she got some good shit. Next week, I'm gonna make sure that I put all of her information on the screen so that you can go by and get you some of her shit. And if you go to her page, it says Miss Fox is spelled with two X's because three X's is nasty. So it's FOXXYTENDERS. Make sure you go holler at her. Lee, I want to thank you for coming on here and doing this with me, and I can't wait to get into part two of our situation. And truth be told, we don't have to wait until then. We can just pre-record it and then put it out. So we can probably pre-record it, as soon as you want to, and we'll just put it out on the first.
Okay.
Yep.
Hmm.
Okay. So with all that being said, hey, I want to thank you again for coming on here. And for everyone else, I want to thank y'all motherfuckers for watching. And I hope that y'all will watch the replay. And I will see y'all motherfuckers the next time. Y'all take it easy. Oh yeah, before we go, titties.